Pivot to Progress, real stories of real pivots, and this is your blueprint for how you can make a career change in the UAE. Today, I'm joined by Vimbai Midzi, the founder of Deeper Beauty. Now, this is an inclusive skincare brand creating melanin-friendly products for all shades. Yes. I love that. I need that.
I'm so glad.
Vimbai, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to get straight into it. You know, this podcast is all about people wanting to make that career switch. For you, I'd love to know, what was that pivot? Did it come from, a personal experience? Did you see a gap in the market? What was it?
So for me, I think it was a combination of personal and professional. So I was frustrated. The exact day was when I had ordered a sunscreen. I was in my bathroom. I put it on thinking that it was for universal skin tones because that's how it was marketed. I was excited. And then as soon as I put it on, I was less excited. I had this awful white cast. I looked terrible. It was thick, it was greasy. I tried to cover it with makeup, it was pilling. And this was probably the fourth or the fifth sunscreen I had tried that had the same effect. And that's when I really thought, okay, let me do something about this. And I'd always had a passion for skincare. Chemistry actually used to be my favorite subject in school, which is strange because I never went down that road. I loved it, but I don't think I had the courage to pursue it. And so I decided to go back. I was still working at the time. I started studying cosmetic science online, and I really enjoyed it. It kind of took me back to high school days. But I also loved the complexity of formulations and what goes into different skincare products, and then went down a rabbit hole of research around skincare trials and who's included and who's not. And of course, I think, unsurprising to most people of color, there was a huge gap in terms of who was being represented and who wasn't. And that was really the beginning of my thought process around Deeper Beauty.
So many different things I'm hearing there that we definitely will be delving into. One of the first things is the fact that you went and got another qualification while still working. Time management, I'm thinking, like, how did you even manage to do all of that?
I didn't sleep much. I didn't sleep much. I mean, I could lie to you and say I had a perfect work-life balance. I didn't. I worked in tech. I was at Kidium, and anyone who's worked in tech will tell you that it's a full-on job. But I was also very specific about what kind of life I wanted once I had left the tech world. I was patient with myself. I gave myself the time to go through everything. I didn't try and do like a quick 3-month course. I gave myself a full 1.5 years, and I just went through it module by module. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions I made. But it was also the thing that allowed me to bet on myself. It was the first time that I thought, okay, this is truly something I want to do for me, not just for a proverbial career ladder, but for something that I want to be my legacy.
When you had this idea, you were working at Kareem, you got the qualification as well, having to manage time, not sleeping, I've heard as well.
Exactly.
All of those different things. What was it, though, that made you realize that you had to take this jump?
So I got laid off, and I wasn't the only one. You know, the company was doing some restructuring, which in tech is actually pretty common. Anyone who's worked in that environment will tell you it happens every year or two. And so I knew that it would come around at some point. The funny thing is I got let go 2 days before my annual leave, which in some ways at the time I thought wasn't ideal, but actually it was the best thing.
It was a blessing in disguise.
It was such a blessing because I was planning on traveling for maybe a week, 10 days. I ended up traveling for almost a month because I had nothing to come back to. And I sat on beaches in Greece and Spain, and I drank too much sangria. And
Don't we all
I
go to Spain?
Exactly. And I thought about what it was I wanted to do with the next chapter of my life. And I think that was, if I were to take you back, prior to that, I had already done a lot of research in terms of the actual production of my skincare line. So if you think about where skincare comes from, it's through a lab process. And so I'd spoken to a lot of different labs within the region, outside of the region, looking at pricing, what would it cost to actually get to my first consignment, distribution? How do I look at different things in terms of retail versus online? I had done a bunch of research around that before, so I was ready. By the time I got retrenched, it was, okay, let me take a break and full speed ahead.
So you had that month break, you were
Yeah.
on the beach, sangria or two in hand, I
Yes.
can imagine,
Yeah, 100%.
knowing you.
2 in hand. I was truly in a moment of self-discovery. It was the first time, at that point I had been in the country for 8 years, in the UAE for 8 years. And it was the first time that I thought about what it is I really wanted. And I didn't think about what it is that would look good, or what people expected me to do. And it was so freeing. It was so freeing.
What were some of those expectations that people thought you would
To
do?
keep climbing the ladder.
Okay.
So I'm from Zimbabwe. Don't let my accent fool you. Just colonized, code switching, the whole shebang. But I've also lived in a lot of different places. So my father was a diplomat. We moved around quite a bit. So I was born in Zimbabwe. We then moved to Cuba, which is unusual. And then we moved to the US. So I was in the US for a while, which is why sometimes I sound American. Went back home, lived in South Africa, lived in the UK at some point, which is why sometimes I sound British, and then moved to Dubai. So I've lived in different places. And even when I was here, my first year, I lived in Jordan for a while. I was in Afghanistan for a bit. I went back and forth to Ethiopia. I have a worldview that is a combination of different places. And as a consequence, my worldview allows for the diversity of people's religions, people's cultures, people's traditions. But it also centers the experience that is very much unique to developing countries. And so I think for me, when you think about moving out into the world, into the diaspora, the expectation is that you follow the path that is stable. You follow the path that somewhat guarantees stability, whether it's financial, making sure that you have a good place to stay, you are saving enough, you are investing in your future, and all of those things are important, don't get me wrong. But it's not what I needed at the time. I had played the game. I had played the corporate game. I had the title. And honestly, I wasn't happy. I was doing work that I thought was important, but it didn't fulfill me. If anything, I was completely burnt out by the time I got retrenched. That month of a holiday, I needed it. I needed to sleep. I needed to just kind of think about what it is I truly wanted that made a life for myself that had meaning. And so now that's all my life is about. It's about chasing meaning, which is in and of itself a privilege. So I do want to acknowledge that. Not everybody has the chance that I have to be able to build what I want to build. And it's hard, but it's also incredibly, I feel incredibly grateful to be able to do what I do.
And it definitely comes across, in all your branding as a purpose-driven product as well. I think you were talking about laboratories and all these different things. Can you walk us through it? Because, the whole point of this podcast is for it to be, your 1, 2, 3 step, a blueprint, a toolkit. I could keep on going on as to all the things I want it to be.
Yeah.
So for someone listening in or watching in and wanting to do this, to set up their own brand, for example, or beauty brand, or whatever it may be, that requires these kind of steps of having to find a laboratory, all of that. How did you do that? And then we're going to talk about business plans and all of those different things.
Sure. So I would say the first thing is get very clear about what it is you want to actually do. So I knew that I wanted it to be in skincare. I knew that I wanted sunscreen to be one of my main SKUs, main products. I knew that I wanted to focus on 3 main areas. So sun care, hydration, and hyperpigmentation. And every product that I will launch will be linked to one of those 3 pillars. That kind of specificity then allowed me to dig deeper into where is the expertise for creating something like this. And that's when, do some research, ask around if you need to. A lot of the research I did was online. I just literally went and tried to find labs that would be able to partner with me. I took a lot of meetings.
How many do you think?
I spoke to 12 different labs.
Wow. All in Dubai or
I spoke
around
to
the UAE?
9 in Dubai and 1 in Korea and 2 in China. It was painful. It was a painful process. I also had a lot of reality checks because the way that these models work, so if you go to a lab and you say, I have a formulation that I would like to produce, you can go back and forth with a chemist and you can say, okay, here's the formulation. And I had the privilege of having some kind of knowledge around that already. So I went in not blind. And I had an idea of what I wanted my ingredient list to look like. Now, the chemist then looks at that and says, okay, yes to this, maybe not this, maybe this concentration. Here are the laws within the UAE, the laws or EU or US or wherever it is you're producing. Here's how much you can put into your formula. So you go through the kind of nitty gritties and that specificity, which I really love because it comes down to point something % of this particular ingredient is legal versus that. And so you go back and forth on that, and then you decide on what it is your quantity is going to be. So MOQs are huge within this industry. MOQs being your minimum order quantity.
Okay.
So if you are buying anything or sourcing something in bulk, you will often be asked to provide a specific MOQ. That MOQ makes it worthwhile for the provider. They're not going to sell you a product at $1 if you are buying 10,000 of it, right? They'll sell it to you at 0.2, right? They'll sell it to you at 20 cents because you're buying a large quantity. And for it to make sense for them, they need to sell you a minimum amount of that. So for them, they may say, okay, we can only sell you 500, right? We're not going to sell you 50 because it makes no sense for our bottom line.
And for you, that first round?
Now, that first batch, that is where I think the English phrase is the rubber meets the road. The rubber meets the road. That's where you have to start negotiating.
Okay.
And that's when you need to say, okay, how big do I want this to be? Because you're walking into an industry as a fresh grad. You have no brand equity. People don't know who you are. You're not a celebrity, so people can't latch onto your name. Circa Hailey Bieber, for example. And so you're going into this blind. So you need to decide how much you're willing to invest in that first consignment. Now, for me, it was really important that I kept my quantities low. That comes with other issues because some labs will say, well, actually, we can only do 10,000 units. Now, 10,000 bottles of my sunscreen is not a small amount to sell. Just in case somebody's wondering, it's not a small amount to sell, and it's not a small amount to invest in. So you need to decide how much capital do I have? What is the MOQ? What is the timeline that I can get this done in? Which then feeds into your runway, right? How much money do you actually have? How much capital do you have to keep you going before you sell that first bottle? And not just before you sell the bottle, before you make money from selling the 100, 500,000, whatever units that allow you to break even, and then start looking into EBITDA positive, into profitability.
Yeah.
It is a process you need to go through in the beginning to see if your idea is viable.
Yeah.
Because you can go down a rabbit hole and spend a whole bunch of money and realize that, oh man, actually, I can't afford to do this. This business will not make any money. And you are in business to make profit. I mean, forget what the tech bros will tell you, okay? Especially if you're not burning VC cash, right? If you're not spending investor money and you're bootstrapping, which means you're funding it yourself, you need to think about every dirham, every dollar, every pound, whatever it is. So I would say start there. Start from what do I want to create? What does it take to create that first batch? Is there an MOQ involved? What does that look like for beauty, for example, from the formulation perspective? And then what does it look like from the packaging perspective as well? So that's a completely different business unit, which I was not aware of when I went into this. Packaging is expensive. And packaging has its own MOQs. So you might decide with the lab, oh, I can do 3,000 units of 100 mils. But you go to a packaging provider and they say, oh, sorry, we only do 7,000. Now you're in a catch-22. Do you negotiate with the packaging? Do you negotiate with the lab? do you have enough capital to put down? Because it's 50% down. And then the next 50%, once they actually have the full finished good, as they say, the bottle with the label and everything else in it. And then you need to decide, after I've sold X amount of this, can I make this a viable business? Will I be profitable? And if I will be profitable, what would it take to actually start to scale in a meaningful way? How do I look at distribution? Am I looking at D2C or direct to consumer, which is just selling from my website, which is what I do? But I'm also looking at other distribution channels. Do you want to sell on Amazon? Do you want to sell on Unas? Do you want to sell on Noon? Those are different distribution channels you can use, but they will charge you a specific percentage, right? So it's not for free. You need to think about marketing. You need to think about, and not just online marketing, offline marketing as well, right? Get into communities. What will that cost you? Sampling, that's more packaging. So there are constant, if I were to show you my budget, my line items consist primarily of the formulation, the packaging, the marketing, and then the day-to-day storage, delivery fees. Are there any other fees that I need to anticipate in terms of my business licensing, for example? All of those things come into the fore, and you need to decide, if I'm going to do this now, how long will it take me to get to a place where I am at least breaking even and then making profit?
Absolutely.
That was long, but I hope it's helpful.
No, I mean, it's like creating a checklist of all the different things as well. So in terms of your funding, your capital, where did that come from?
Me. I'd like to thank me.
Me, myself, and
As Snoop Dogg said, as the great Snoop said, I'd like to thank me for being here. It was a culmination of my savings. My payout from Kadeem, everything that I had saved in my entire career. And things that I had invested as well, so just getting returns from that. It's been everything that I have put in. This product is me.
Yeah, it's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love, and it is a testament to the belief I have in myself.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's like you're betting on yourself for
100%,
all of this.
100%.
Is going to investors something that or VCs, something you want to pursue?
Yeah, I'm in two minds.
Really?
If you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have said to you, yeah, absolutely. Like, it would be impossible, right? Otherwise. Vimbai of 2026, okay, that's coming here, I'm looking at it slightly differently. Only because I've been exposed to different networks and spoken to different entrepreneurs in different sectors who have either raised or not raised. A lot of them who have raised. And they have walked me through what a journey it is. One, it's a full-time job. Getting funding is not easy. If you've had it easy, you are the exception, not the rule. Number two, you also need to think about ownership or equity. So, investors expect a return, and part of that return is having some ownership over your company.
Absolutely.
Very normal. And then there's other ways you can, have a convertible note, safe notes, etc. We can go into like the specifics around those, which allow you to access capital without too much of a compromise on equity. But ownership is very important for me. It's one of the things that I went into the entrepreneurship world seeking. And, different people have different views on this, and whatever works for you, works for you. To me, by the time I get to an exit event, i.e. when I actually do sell off my company, which is a plan of mine, I do have an exit plan, I want to be in a place where I own the majority of that company. I do not want to sell, a large stake of my company. Now, if you speak to me 3 years from now and I got a sweet deal, please, I don't want to hear, what happened?
Like, I'm going to bring this back on you,
You said this on the podcast. I don't want to hear it.
Do you remember when?
Hey.
It's on the record,
I don't want to hear it. No. But honestly, I believe in my own source. And I believe in this product.
How much did you then? Could you give us a ballpark figure?
I can give you a ballpark figure. I have invested, let's just say anything between $25,000 to $35,000. And that for me is that's all in. which is, again, a lot of people don't have 25K lying around. So I don't want to minimize this, and I don't want to say it is absolutely accessible for each person, which is why a lot of people go to investors, right? They need the money. And I may get to next year and decide, well, maybe I want to expand into Europe. And maybe that requires a certain level of capital that I just simply don't have. That requires a certain kind of investment. Fine. But I still maintain that I think there are too many founders that run to investment before they've tried bootstrapping. If you have the means, if you have a good head on your shoulders, if you are in a network with people who are smart, who can help you, try it. Try it. Give yourself the freedom to think and dream and create something that is truly of you before you invite another person in who may have very strong opinions on what direction your brand needs to go. Anyone who's following the story on Amicole, which is a brand in the US, beauty brand, they were in, I believe, 600 stores in Sephora. 4 or 5 years into their journey, shut down 2 months ago. Black owned, incredibly amazing products. I've used their products. But the truth is, when you have an investor who is pushing for growth, that growth may outpace what it is you're willing to do.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened. Ultimately, it was a combination of different things, and part of it is the market. But a lot of it is understanding what kind of investor you're in bed with, and what are their goals? How do they want to scale? And is that scaling sustainable for the team that you have? Do you want to sleep? Do you want control over your time? Or do you want to spend a lot of time in quarterly business review meetings, preparing decks? The exact same thing I used to do when I was in corporate. I don't want to do that. At least not yet.
Yeah. Gosh, that was just hearing that. I was just like, wow. So go and do that on your own that's a true belief in yourself.
It's a true belief in yourself. It is hard though.
Yeah.
I do not want anyone to leave this podcast thinking that this is easy.
Yeah.
It will test every bit of you.
What bit of you did it test the most?
How much you believe in your ability to run the course.
Did you other people looking in, did that impact you as well?
I mean,
what would other people think?
Yeah, I don't really care. I think I was just saying to someone.
How do I put this diplomatic?
I
don't care.
I don't really care. I was saying to someone the other day, I don't have any self-limiting beliefs. And I don't say that to sound arrogant. And I don't say that to say that I don't have self-doubt. Those are two very different things. I don't believe that there is anything I cannot do should I put my mind to it. It's as simple as that. That's not to say I don't have days when I'm balled up in the corner in a fetal position, wondering why I went down this path. That's not to say I don't have hard days. It's not to say I don't call my friends in a panic, wondering what on earth, why did they let me do this, right? It is to say that deep down, I know that if I put in the work, eventually I'm going to win.
And also you recently started, Sunny.
It's 5 months.
Exactly.
It's 5 months since launch.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's 5 months since launch. And I think I've learned to give myself a lot more grace.
So 5 months, how did you build credibility prior to that launch? And also as you go around to the labs and go to your distributors and all these different places and things like that, how did that work? Give us an idea.
Yeah, I would say one of the things is to push on open doors. There's going to be a lot of closed doors when you first start out. Nobody knows you. And one of the things I did was I work with an amazing social media manager. She is incredible at creating brands. And she convinced me to start the Instagram page a lot earlier than I would have started it personally. And we started building a brand around that.
You can give her a shout out.
Yeah, her name is Cheryl. Cheryl is creative. She takes initiative. She's kind. but she also understands deeper. She understands, she's a Black woman as well. She understands what it's like to have skin of color, and to try and find something that works for you. And she's worked with me really closely to build the brand of what it is that deeper means. So first we're starting building that brand before we had even launched. That was really important. The second thing was, to my point about pushing on open doors, community. Communities have been so supportive. The run clubs, the Pilates groups, the random meditation groups, the people are in a space right now where they crave connection. And within that connection, there's opportunity. There's opportunity to really get people to connect with you and therefore connect with your brand. I also didn't necessarily make this decision, but it became this way. My brand is a founder-led brand. People connect with me. And can I swear?
No.
Okay. People connect with me.
I want to make that very clear. You can't.
You invited the wrong person. Hey, let me start again.
I might keep this bit in.
Yeah. Okay. My brand is a founder-led brand. For
And
better
you
or
still
for
can't
worse.
swear.
For
So I can help myself. Okay, yeah.
That's fair, okay.
Oh my goodness.
No, my brand is it's a founder-led brand, for better or for worse. And what that means is that people connect with me. Before they connect with the brand, they see me and they see what I stand for. And that cascades into what the brand stands for. That means that me going into spaces and speaking to people actually makes a difference. And people connect with my story. I'll give you an example. I went to an event relatively recently, and I was speaking to a bunch of women, just, telling them about my story and handing out samples, nothing crazy. I was there for about an hour and a half, maybe. I got home and I made some lunch. I sat down again, I checked my phone, and I had 5 orders from the same people that I had just met.
Amazing.
People care. What is that saying? People care about how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that when they see deeper, they feel a sense of belonging. And I think in today's day and age, that's incredibly important. So when they talk about relevance or like people trusting you, they trust you because you're genuine. They trust you because they see themselves in you, and they see themselves in the narrative that your brand is telling. And it's authentic and it's not contrived. And I didn't just grab an influencer and put them front and center and make them the face of the brand. It is literally me with my pimples and my imperfect skin and my random struggles on a day-to-day basis and my bootstrapping and things being scrappy and not having enough money to launch 5 products at a time. This is my story. And it could be someone else's too. So I think that's how you build credibility. It's not because I'm sitting at P&G or Estee Lauder. It's because I'm me.
Absolutely. And looking at that pipeline as well, because you were you had to do the social media side of things. So you were on Instagram. So that's your branding that you're also getting out there. At the same time, so from this $25,000 to $35,000, you were paying Cheryl,
Yes.
right? And it's just you. It's a team of you. There's no...
It's a team of me. I have, at the lab, there are 2 chemists that I work with.
And the lab's based here?
The lab space is here. So lab
Okay.
space is in Sharjah.
Okay.
And so the lab, that's an all-inclusive kind of sum of the formulation, sourcing the ingredients, getting the chemists paid, all of that is included. In terms of day-to-day operations, it is just me.
Yeah.
I do work with a fractional CFO, which is the chief financial officer, but fractional means it's just a few hours a month, who kind of helps me with my accounting and things like that. And that's...
And the distributors as well.
Yeah, I have a warehouse that I store in. They also do my deliveries as well. So they're what we call a 3PL or a third-party provider. And I just pay them to store all of my products, to deliver all of my products. That's about it. And once I'm in conversation right now with a few different distributors to start to get my product on different platforms. That will then require, commission payments, etc. But the management of it would be me. If something needs to get edited on the site, that's me. So I have this you know, that meme when it's like, oh, you're speaking to a business owner and you use the royal we. It's like, yeah, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just me.
It's just all
I'm
you.
so sorry. Like when I responded to a customer the other day, and she was like, "Oh, I really need. I'm traveling. Can you get it to me today?" And I said, "Yeah, we will. We will do our best."
It will get there.
And meanwhile, it's just me. I'm like, "Oh, let me get to work. Let me put on that hat, and then come back and
another hat.
Look at my P&L." Yeah, that's what it takes.
So we've got the pool of money.
Yes.
At the same time as doing social media, you also have to do the trial and error of the products as well. You've got to get the product out. It's going to be sold. You're getting the orders in, all those different things. Someone who wants to do something similar, so they've made it in their mind, they're going to do the career, they're going to do the pivot. Bang. What is it that they need to do first? Go to the lab, start out on the brand, for example, get that in the mind as to like, what is your mission statement, all of those different things.
Yeah.
Are you doing all of it at once? You know, what would it be?
Yeah.
Give us like a step by step, like what it would be.
Sure. So some of it's sequential, but a lot of it's not. The way that I started was understanding the brand first. So I wanted to know what it is I was building first. What product do I want to launch? Why would it be differentiated from anything else? Then it was the lab, right? Okay, fine. Now that I know what I want to do, ballpark, let me go to the lab and figure out, okay, ingredients-wise, can we source this and from where? How much would it cost? Do we need to source 5 kgs of this or 10 kgs of this? Will it take 3 months or 3 days? Where is it coming from? Okay, formulation process. How long does that take? How many chemists do we need to get that done? Okay, legal entity-wise, I need to make sure I've done all of my registration, right? So I have a business license, etc. I've registered for corporate tax. Okay, cool. Is there any other registration I need? If we're importing, who's importing? Are you importing under my license? Are you importing under yours? Like, there are all of these different aspects to figure out. And if you're working with a lab, you have the benefit of the structures that they have in place already. So they know what to do. They're a lab. They have 30 years of experience in the UAE. They know exactly what they're doing. They can walk you through what paperwork you need to have, things you need to sign off on. So you're not alone in that sense. So it sounds daunting, but you have people with you. Then start to think about, from that part that you have, what is your MOQ? How am I going to start? Okay, I'm going to start with 1,000 units. Is the lab okay with that? Great. If I do that, where is my packaging coming from? Can I do 1,000 or do... So what I did is I bought 2x of my packaging to make sure that once I run out, I still have the packaging here and I'm not paying an extra cost because I locked in a specific price. And at that point, you're negotiating at the point, is it 0.5, is it 0.6, is it 0.62? You need to really negotiate and negotiate hard and make sure you're getting the best possible price you can per unit.
How do you even figure that out though?
I mean, I only had so much money.
Okay.
I only had so much money. So in my mind, it was like, okay, this money's going to run out. I can only afford this much. Can you do this for me? And part of I think I got incredibly lucky in the sense that the lab that I work with, one, they specialize in sun protection more broadly. So they know what they're doing. 2, they're very understanding of small businesses' needs. So they're not asking me to do 20,000 units to begin with, right? 3, you then need to figure out, okay, how much can I keep pushing on that door? They come back with a number, you come back with another one. They come back with you go back with it. Negotiate at least 3 times and then decide what your price is. And then make the call. There are labs that I probably could have worked with, but I couldn't afford them. So I decided, okay, that's not for me. And then you need to decide, am I going to bootstrap or should I go and find investment? But that's not going to be immediate, right? I wanted to start. So I needed to decide to start myself. And then if the investment comes, it comes. If I want to do that, fine. So I think it's also about figuring out, 1, how much budget you have, 2, what are the requirements for the lab, and 3, how much is that runway? So if I spend this in this month, I'm only going to reap the benefits 6-8 months from now. Can I pay my rent? Can I pay my bills? If you have kids, are your kids going to starve? Will the state get involved?
What about visas as well? Like, that's also something to consider.
Very good point. I'm on a golden visa. I I'm not thinking about my visa for the next 8 years. So I'm
Which is
good.
a privileged position to
Which
be
is
in.
a completely privileged position to be in. And when I speak to people and they ask me, I'm like, honestly, I got a golden visa because everyone at Kareem was getting a golden visa. Like I didn't even know what it was. Somebody had told me about it. I didn't need it at the time, but they told me I might need it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get it. And now, I mean, that was 2 years ago. Now there's other options, freelance visas, business ownership visas. It's important to do your research around that as well. And there are firms that you can speak to, PROs, within this region that can guide you much better than I can.
So yeah, I mean, this is the thing about the visas. If you're in that position that you have a golden visa, things become less complicated.
Yes.
If not, at least there are
Yeah.
other options as well, because here in the UAE, they really want to foster that entrepreneurship and that business environment as
Correct.
well. Which brings me to wondering, like, what is it about the UAE that makes it such a great place for you to have your brand, to start your brand?
Oh, man. If I had started this brand anywhere else in the world, it would have cost me 2 or 3 times more in terms of money, but also in terms of time. The process of getting my license, my business license, was a week. The process of getting any kind of document I needed from a government entity, maximum 2 weeks. Now that in and of itself allows you to have a much steadier runway, because if you have to think about how to maximize on your rent, food, all of those expenses, etc., that means you have a specific runway. Your money's going to run out in a year, let's say. Every delay you face means that your runway gets longer and longer. Do you have enough money to last you? If you're in a market like this, you can start and you can solidify and you can launch in a very short period of time. That's very advantageous to anyone who's starting a business, especially if you're bootstrapping, because you need money to be able to survive. So you don't want a lengthy process at all.
And did you go to a free zone, and which free zone did you go to?
So I'm registered in the Fujairah free zone. It was cost effective for me at the time. I have my own visa, so I didn't have to add on a visa as well. So my cost was cheaper in terms of the licensing fee. The other thing to consider is corporate tax. You need to register for that, but you don't need to pay tax until you're doing $100,000, not dirhams, dollars in revenue a year. So that's easier for the smaller businesses, right? And then, yeah, I think that something to also consider is how are you going to manage your kind of day-to-day expenses when it comes to the running of the business? Are there other expenses you're not anticipating? If you're working in SaaS, are there particular platforms you have to pay for? There's all of these little things, they add up.
They really
you
do.
don't
Your
think
domain
about
name
the
and all
domain
that.
names,
Yeah.
and do you need access to WhatsApp? So it's your phone bill.
Trademarking as well.
Trademarking, and there's all of these different little expenses you don't anticipate in the beginning that you really need to do your research on, and you're not going to get it right from the beginning. And I think you need to give yourself grace. There's going to be things that I thought of now that I'm like, oh man, I probably should have done that differently. But that's just business. That's just life, really.
I want to hear more about the achievements that you have. I think this is going to be sold in a hotel or...
Yes. This is super timely as well because we're literally posting about it today. But I am so pleased because we managed to become the only sunscreen provider in the Me Dubai Hotel, which is, thank you, which is in downtown. It's a beautiful hotel designed by Zaha Hadid. She's was an incredible architect from the region. The hotel is stunning, and we have some retail space there. But in addition to that, they have also bought a consignment from us for their cabana guests, for their suite guests as well. So if you are at the hotel, you are in those specific rooms, or you book out a cabana, then you also get it in your little goodie bag, which is great. So I'm excited that an entity like that saw the value in this brand. They saw the value in having something that is inclusive, and honestly, I cannot tell you how pleased I am.
I can see it. Did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you?
So it was funny because I knew somebody who was working at the PR agency that represented them. And she just happened to mention to one of the managers that she knew somebody who had a sunscreen. And I think they were having the conversation about reactivating the pool area. Winter was coming and things like that. And managed to get me a meeting. Had a meeting with them, had a couple of meetings with them. And we agreed on terms, and that was it. We just finished the shoot, and so the content is going live today to announce the actual partnership. And I honestly am so grateful. So grateful, yeah. But I think, this is just one milestone. And I think back to the people watching this who want to make that pivot, I will say that you need to decide what you want to focus on and who you want to be aligned with and what you want to be known for. I think being in a space like this gives me the kind of credibility because it's a stamp of approval from a large institution. But it's also not the only thing you can rely on, right? You need to continue to do your direct to consumer. You need to continue to go to communities. You need to continue to find other distributors and to solidify that brand, because I want to make them proud too. I want to come up in conversation when they're in other spaces. And I think that building of relationships within the industries that you are adjacent to is really important. I've had different Airbnb hosts, for example, come to me and say, hey, I want to buy some samples from you just for my guests, right? I have high-end guests that come into Dubai, etc. That's another stream of income. And so you need to think about creative ways to getting credibility in ways that are not just your Instagram ad, because that only gets you so far.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
To finish off, I want to go to our final segment where I've got a few questions for you, well, more questions. But, I think it's also important to look at like the progression of how far you've come, mistakes that I've made that you don't want others to make. So in that vein, if you could lend listeners one mistake so they don't have to make it, which one would it be? One mistake. I feel like I should add drama to this by like a 60-second timer.
Yeah. I would say do not make the mistake of trusting without verifying. Question everything. And I mean everything. Even when you hire people in the beginning, question everything. If they give you something and they say, this is the best offer we could get, ask for a better one. Don't just accept the first offer you get on the table, because oftentimes it's not the best one.
This one is about finishing the sentence. Before my pivot, I believed
I wasn't the right kind of person to be an entrepreneur.
I'm going to ask why.
I didn't think I had it in me. I didn't think I had the grit. I didn't think I had the expertise, because I assumed you needed like this large repertoire of expertise. I didn't think I had what it took to wake up every morning and believe in myself.
Before I started, I feared
that no one would buy my product.
Now I know
people love my product.
That's great. Vimbai, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, to give anyone listening and watching advice as well. I'm sure they can reach out to you I'm sure people have many more questions as well.
Sure
and they can reach out to you about this.
Yeah.
And I just think it was just incredibly moving to hear about your experiences as to why you set up this brand as well, Deeper Beauty. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen and to watch this podcast as well. It means so much to me if you could like it, if you could subscribe to it, and if you could share it as well with your friends and family, so that other people can hear stories of pivots in the UAE and know that it's possible to do.